Hello, everyone, and welcome to the maiden edition of MPA Byte. And what MPA Byte really is an opportunity for me and some other people who are also passionate about Africa to share their thoughts in a quick session, which we'll call the Byte. And so this is the first edition of MPA Byte. And MPA really is an organization. It's a non-profit which I founded. My name is Doji Akor, and MPA basically stands for Motivated and Patriotic Africans. Basically, the vision here is, and the mission is to educate young Africans about why it's important for us to own our own destiny and understand how the world works. Understand that when you go outside the country, there is racism. In the grand scheme of things, like the African race is not really controlling much of the world's resources, even though we have most of the resources in Africa. And we are not the ones who, kind of most of the times it seems as though we are the victims because we are taken advantage of so many times over the years. And so that we are looking for people who are motivated and patriotic because motivation is what makes us rise up to do something, and patriotic because we're going to love our country before it really our countries before they really become what they can be. And so I want to thank you for making the time to join. Let's dive in because this is the MPA Bite. What young Africans need to do in the 21st century? That's the topic we are going to cover today. Number one, young Africans need to study and understand the history and the state of black people in the world. If we don't study the history all the way back to slavery, through the abolition of slavery, and the, you might say, implementation of democracy and pseudo democracies in Africa, and the fight for liberation, from colonialism and colonization, you won't really understand what has happened to the black race and why we have to work hard, support each other, build industries, and quickly catch up with the world. And so it starts with studying history. Young people need to understand the history, and they need to understand the state of black people around the world and why we are so interconnected. No matter where we are, all black people can be traced back to some, in one form or fashion, to Africa. Number two, young people need to understand that the destiny of black people anywhere in the world is intertwined. It doesn't matter who you are, whether you are a mulatto or you are a Caribbean or an African American or a British or UK American, African. You are in one way or another connected to Africa. You are in one way or another black, and you must care about Africa. So our destinies are tied together. The level of respect the African American receives is directly tied to the level of respect the African receives in the world. And so we as Africans have to build Africa so that the representation and the image of Africans around the world is improved. Number three, change the culture to have strong structure and high creativity. Now we are creative people. There's no doubt about it. When you look at our music, scene, you look at the movie scene, you look at the poetry and the writing of short stories and books that have been authored. You look at other things in the sciences and other places. We are a creative people, but we need to increase upon that. We need to boost creativity to come up with solutions that are meant for us. We shouldn't always bring in the so-called experts from the West or from China. We have to believe in ourselves. The best people to solve our problems are ourselves because we are the ones who understand truly what the challenges are. And we can do this. Also, structure. I just arrived from the United States a couple of weeks ago. And I miss a part of the structure that's in the United States. the way people drive on the streets in Ghana, really kind of hit me. Like, they talk about reverse culture shock. It kind of hit me because I was like, wow, you know, so much indiscipline and, public bus drivers just doing all kinds of stuff. So please, we need structure, we need high creativity. Number 4, entrepreneurship. Solutions to problems that generate wealth and create wealth. The single biggest problem to the African right now, and all the experts agree, 60% of the African population is under the age of 25. What that means is that you're going to have a lot of young people who are educated and looking for jobs. The jobs don't come from the governments. They have some jobs, but they can't create all the jobs. The jobs in America were primarily created by small businesses and the big companies. We need to create the jobs by starting as many businesses as possible that can also be scaled up. We need some big giants, like we need to have our own Apples of the world, Microsofts, Googles, Alibabas, and Lenovo's of the world, so that we can also match and compete boot for boot on the global scene. There's been an over-dependence on natural resources. We need to move away from that and go into manufacturing and technology. We can do this. Entrepreneurship is the way. The dominant economic system in the world is capitalism. That was decided, and we saw it at the end of the Cold War when the U.S., quote unquote, won out against, Russia or the former Soviet Union. The young African must also be an entrepreneur, must create wealth for himself and for his family and for others. It's a must, no matter what. Number 5, we need to scale up and think global for businesses, and that's one thing I've said already. We need to scale up. We are good at starting businesses. Someone can just put a table by the roadside, sell some bananas or some oranges, or sell some kinke or some food, sell some clothes and other things. But those are like things that we either source from local farms or something like that, or they are imported and we just sell. It's like it's like wholesale retail. The manufacturing is lost, so it affects the economy as a whole. We have to manufacture more of what we consume and more of what we sell. Obviously, there's competition from outside, and so those products are cheaper, and it is hard. It's difficult, but again, for patriotism, right? Love your country before it becomes what it should be. We need to support made in Ghana, made in Africa, goods and services. We need to do what we can to protect local industries in the early stages. Most developed countries did that. And also, we don't in this world, we don't have the luxury to go conquer other lands and take their wealth the way it was done to us by the West, right? So we have to think of creative solutions like the Chinese did, because their model is the model that shows that in the present world, a country can indeed become wealthy within a short amount of time. And so we need to learn from that. Number 6, we need to be ethical servant leaders. I can't think of anyone who was more, ethical and loving and humble, and yet, in my opinion, the most intelligent black man who ever walked the surface of the earth than Martin Luther King Jr. What we need is a group of young people who grow up understanding that ethics are more important than money, and that we need to seek, the doing of the right thing, in government, in leadership, in companies, so that we can have, incorruptible leaders who are willing to sacrifice for the good of the people, not for themselves. If they have to make a decision where they will be forced to cheat and be corrupt, they take a stand, even if it means their lives. And also, as Kwame Nkrumah once said, we need to build a strong public opinion against corruption. If the culture changes and says corruption is bad, then it will be bad. If cheating is frowned upon. And one of the ways one of the ways I think we can do this, one thing I'll recommend is through the arts, music, movies that depict corruption as bad and show the evils. Number two would be strong laws and enforcement of the laws. I'm happy that Ghana, for instance, has an independent prosecutor in terms of corruption, but we need to have an actual agency like the one in Singapore where the laws apply and they are enforced to the letter. Fines must be applied. Government officials must be made to pay, and even have served jail time if necessary. It's very important to change the culture of corruption, which is so permeated our countries in Africa. Number 7, as I said, love your country before it becomes what it can and should be. Patriotism is one thing I really saw in the United States. Yes, they'll criticize the US if it's wrong, but when they get to the point where they realize that, wow, you are really going overboard, no, they stop. They're like, look, this is our country, the stripes and stars. We will fight for the Star-Spangled Banner. We are not people who give up on our country. We love it from 1776 till 2020, 244 years of standing by the country and marketing it as the best place to live and the best place to make an extra buck, make an economic success of your life. Number 8, African economic and eventual political and geographical unity must be pursued. If we are to be a strong people and a strong continent, eventually we must be united, as Kwame Nkrumah also described in the early days of the liberation movement. We must unite as Africa. I'm happy to see we have the African Free Trade Agreement, which will help us to come together as a continent economically, just like the EU. But we must go beyond that and have territorial and geographical, maybe even political unity as well, and slowly move towards the formation of something that looks like the United States of America. Because one country like Ghana can only bargain so much in a negotiation or have so much influence or power in a negotiation. But if we negotiate as Africa, we have so much more power. I want to thank you for your time. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much and take care. Bye for now.